When a physical building collapses, engineers can usually pinpoint the exact structural failure, like a cracked foundation or metal fatigue or maybe a load-bearing wall that just finally gave out.
Right, it's measurable. I mean, it is pure physics.
Exactly. But when a workplace collapses, like when a team's absolute top performers just suddenly vanish, or when an entire department is silently burning out at their desks, we rarely look for a structural failure. We just tend to blame the individuals.
Yeah, we tell ourselves they couldn't handle the pace or, they just weren't a culture fit.
Right. We treat it as an individual weakness, completely ignoring the terrifying possibility that the collapse might actually be a systemic design feature of the company itself.
Which is such a massive blind spot for so many leaders.
It really is. And that is why today on the Deep Dive, we are looking at why that narrative is completely backwards. We are unpacking a chillingly accurate mirror of the modern corporate dystopia using excerpts from a book called The Chilling Effect by Joy S., and it's published by BSC Publications.
Yeah, and the author isn't just, theorizing from the outside. He is a veteran with over 19 years of experience navigating the trenches of the software industry.
19 years is a lot of time to see how the sausage is made.
Absolutely. And he brings those 2 decades of firsthand observations into a fictionalized story following this idealistic software engineer named Arjun Rao. Through Arjun's eyes, we get a front-row seat to the actual mechanics of toxic corporate environments.
So it's fiction, but it's built entirely on the reality of how these organizations actually operate behind closed doors.
Exactly. It's drawn from real-world mechanics.
And I want to be clear for you listening, this isn't just a story about having a bad boss who micromanages you or sends emails at midnight.
Yeah.
This is a deep exploration of systemic institutional betrayal.
Yeah, we are talking about environments where your technical competence is actively weaponized against you.
Yes, where human resources is designed to be a tool of suppression and where blind loyalty is demanded at the absolute cost of your sanity. If you are listening to this, you have probably seen glimpses of these toxic traps in your own career. Okay, let's unpack this. How do these toxic systems disguise themselves so well that brilliant people just keep walking right into them in the first place?
Well, to understand how brilliant people get trapped, you first have to look at the bait. In the book, Arjun is recruited to a tech company called Innovate Dynamics.
Right.
And on the outside, it is this glittering glass and steel facade. You have the vice president, this highly charismatic leader named Vikram Singh, and he basically sells the company to Arjun as a sanctuary for artists and a temple to logic.
A temple to logic, wow.
I know, right? He frames the work as a higher calling, not just a paycheck. It's meant to appeal directly to an engineer's passion.
But the reality inside, however, is what the author brilliantly calls smiling propaganda. It's this suffocating corporate wellness culture. You have these mandatory best place to work celebrations in the cafeteria.
Oh, with the deflated balloons?
Yes, the deflated balloons and the stale pastries.
Yeah.
It looks like employee appreciation on the surface, but it's essentially a theatrical performance used to mask a culture of absolute fear and compliance.
It also masks a very deep financial corruption, which is huge in the story. The sources detail a mechanism called the phantom budget.
The phantom budget.
Right, yeah, and it is a classic bait and switch. While the actual engineers, the people building the products, are denied basic software licenses, forced to work on outdated servers that crash constantly.
Oh, that's the worst.
It is, and they are pushed into grueling weekend sprints just to make up for the tech deficit. But meanwhile, the company's budget is secretly being siphoned off.
Right into the pockets of the executives.
Yes, to the penny. I mean, the phantom budget is funding lavish off-site retreats, first-class flights, and luxury hotel suites for executives like the CEO and HR leaders like Sunita.
So the engineers are quite literally sweating to fund the vanity of the elite, all while being told the company is going through a tight financial quarter.
Exactly. It's incredibly manipulative.
It makes me think of an anglerfish.
Yeah.
You know, that deep-sea predator?
But yeah, with the little light.
Exactly. It dangles this glowing, beautiful bioluminescent lure in the pitch-black water. And top talent swims right toward this glowing promise of an artistic sanctuary and the ping pong tables and those prestigious best place to work certifications.
And then jumped?
Right. The second they get close enough, the jaws snap shut. They're trapped in the dark. It makes you wonder, how many times have you seen a company relentlessly promote its amazing culture on social media while its employees are secretly burning out in silence?
What's fascinating here is how the company enforces this control once the employee is actually trapped inside those jaws, because the glowing bait gets them in the door, sure, but the psychological warfare is what keeps them immobilized.
The psychological warfare in this book is just wild. And let's talk about the bureaucratic maze they force employees through. There's this recurring theme of the POC dance.
Ah, the proof of concept dance.
Yes, the proof of concept dance and the appraisal games. So Arjun, who is a genuinely brilliant architect, builds this highly complex, time-saving deployment automation tool. It's incredibly practical.
And it actually works.
Yes, it would save the company hundreds of hours and drastically reduce system errors, and management just completely ignores it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, this politically savvy sycophant named Karen wins the Star of the Month award for building a hollow synergy dashboard.
Which is literally just spinning charts and emojis.
Yes, it does nothing. But let's break down why this happens. The dance is the illusion of meritocracy. Management asks for a proof of concept to pretend they care about innovation, right?
Right. They want the optics of innovation without the hard work.
Exactly. Arjun builds something that works, but Karen builds something that sells. The dance is management pretending they're evaluating the technology when really they're just evaluating who massages their egos better.
That scene perfectly illustrates the currency of this environment. The currency isn't competence, and it certainly isn't truth. The currency is narrative.
Narrative. Wow.
Yeah, because Karan knows how to manage up. He provides a flashy spectacle that executives can look at for 5 seconds and feel like they are leading a cutting-edge tech firm without having to actually understand any complex engineering.
While Arjun is doing the real work.
Exactly. Arjun provides a functional tool that requires actual engineering discipline to implement. In a toxic hierarchy, substance is entirely invisible unless it is packaged in spectacle.
And if you step out of line or point out that the spectacle is empty, they don't just fire you, they break you down psychologically.
Yeah.
There was a devastating case study in the book about a fresh graduate named Samir.
Oh, this Samir story is so hard to read.
It really is. He gets intentionally set up to fail by Karan. Karan gives him bad parameters, which leads to a broken pipeline. Then, at a company party, Samir is publicly humiliated and hazed for the failure.
In front of everyone.
Yes. But the craziest part is what happens when Samir tries to do the right thing and go to HR.
This is where HR is revealed as an active instrument of gaslighting. When Samir debriefs with HR, led by Sunita and Meera, they don't investigate the hazing at all.
No, they invert reality entirely.
Yes. They frame Samir, the victim, as the liability to the company's culture. They tell him his emotional reaction to being hazed is the actual problem, painting him as unprofessional and unstable. And they actually force him into mandatory re-education on professional socialization.
It is institutional betrayal in its purest form. They protect the predator because the predator plays the political game, and they pathologize the victim.
It's completely backward.
And they use similar tactics on Arjun, too. Arjun pushes back against bad technical decisions. He brings actual facts, math, and engineering logic to the table to say, hey, the system will crash.
And what does management do? They start calling him the professor?
Right. It seems like a harmless joke on the surface, but it's a calculated move. They brand him with this nickname to subtly delegitimize his expertise. By calling him the professor, they frame his practical engineering warnings as rigid, academic, and completely disconnected from the fast-paced reality of the business.
They turn his greatest asset, his knowledge, into a personality flaw.
But hold on, let me push back on this for a second. We are talking about a software company. Surely a tech company actually needs its systems to work to make money, right?
You'd think so.
I mean, if the servers crash, clients leave. The revenue stops. How can a company possibly survive, let alone be profitable, if they only reward sycophants who build emoji dashboards?
This raises an important question, and it's actually the core paradox of Innovate Dynamics. You'd think they would just go bankrupt.
Exactly.
But here is the dark secret of this fictional company, and frankly, a lot of real-world corporations. They survive because of what the author calls the devil's bargain.
The devil's bargain.
Yeah. They don't fire the competent people. Instead, they force the actual experts, the Arjuns of the world, into the shadows. Management essentially extracts the labor of the top performers to keep the lights on, forcing them to constantly run around cleaning up the catastrophic messes made by the sycophants.
So the people who actually know how the engine works are punished with late nights and weekend emergency patches, while the people who just take selfies in front of the engine get promoted and go on the lavish retreats.
And the experts are entirely denied the credit or the resources they need to actually fix the root problems. They are just kept in a perpetual state of firefighting.
So if the experts are doing all the invisible grunt work while the sycophants get all the praise, what stops the experts from just throwing their hands up and quitting?
Well, that is exactly the problem. They do quit. And when that devil's bargain runs for long enough, the entire ecosystem of the company physically changes. This introduces one of the most powerful analytical frameworks in the book, the Dead Sea effect.
Oh, I love this concept.
It's a brilliant way to understand talent drain. So imagine a body of water. When an institution becomes toxic, all the fresh water, which represents the highly skilled, passionate, marketable top performers, evaporates.
Because they can leave.
Right. These people realize their competence is a liability, and because they are highly skilled, they have options in the job market, so they leave. And what is left behind is the salt.
The salt.
Yeah, a dense, immovable residue of political opportunists, sycophants, and resigned employees who are just trying to survive the day.
That is such a vivid, terrifying way to describe a dying company culture. You can almost feel the stagnation, and you see the physical human toll of this all over the book. The author describes these waves of coordinated, silent, sick days hitting the office.
The Friday fever.
Yes, the Friday fever. It is not a biological virus. It is a quiet, desperate protest. The empty desks are a silent scream against a crushing, unreasonable workload. The environment is literally making people physically ill.
Because not everyone can evaporate like fresh water. Some people are trapped by what the book calls golden handcuffs. We throw around that term a lot in business, usually implying someone is staying for a massive bonus or out of corporate greed.
Right, like an executive stock option.
Exactly. But in this story, the golden handcuffs are forged from fear and obligation.
Like with the character of Rajesh.
Yes, Rajesh. He is a veteran engineer in his late 50s. He isn't staying for a yacht. He has a mortgage, he has kids whose college tuition is coming due, and his deep, specialized knowledge of the company's legacy systems doesn't necessarily translate to a flashy 2026 startup.
He is terrified of losing his livelihood.
And the company knows it. They price his terror into his treatment.
They completely weaponize his loyalty and his age.
In one of the most Kafkaesque, deeply upsetting turns in the story, Rajesh spends his nights secretly learning modern AI skills.
Oh man, that part broke my heart.
He's exhausted, but he's hoping to earn a transition to a new role so he isn't left behind. Instead, the company passes him over, hands the critical AI project to an entirely unqualified sycophant, and places Rajesh on a performance improvement plan, or PIP.
And as anyone who has been in corporate America knows, a PIP in a toxic company isn't actually about improving performance.
Not at all. It is a legal mechanism designed to create a paper trail of failure so they can fire you without paying severance. It's a slow-motion execution.
Because they give him impossible goals.
Right, exactly. They give Rajesh mathematically impossible, contradictory demands. They tell him he needs to increase his own coding output by 20%, but simultaneously require him to spend 30 hours a week training his unqualified replacement. The PIP isn't a ladder to help him climb out, it's a trapdoor.
It is reverse Darwinism. Instead of the survival of the fittest, it is the survival of the most compliant. The more you care, the faster you get crushed under the weight of the system. It really makes you look at your own office differently. Take a second and think about your own team. Are you surrounded by fresh water, or is it getting salty?
It is a profoundly sobering reflection. And witnessing all of this, the destruction of Samir, the trapping of Rajesh, it pushes our protagonist, Arjun, to his absolute breaking point.
Because Arjun is fresh water.
Right, but he has been trying to survive in the salt, believing that if he just builds good enough tech, logic will eventually win out.
But logic doesn't win in a system built on narrative. Arjun's breaking point is so intense. Vikram, the VP, completely steals credit for Arjun's Oracle predictive AI engine, just slaps his name on it and presents it to the board as his own visionary creation.
The audacity is staggering.
It is. And later, when one of Vikram's terrible rushed architectural decisions inevitably blows up and crashes a major system, Vikram tries to publicly execute Arjun in a meeting with a client. He tries to make Arjun the scapegoat for a systemic failure.
But that is the catalyst. That is the moment Arjun finally realizes that competence cannot save him in a system designed to exploit it. He realizes that participating in the lie, even just to quietly fix the code in the background, is slowly eroding his own soul.
He's funding the corruption with his talent.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he finally walks away from the burning building.
He leaves, he breaks the spell of the anglerfish, and he goes on to build his own venture, Sutra Analytics. I want to highlight the core values he establishes at Sutra because they are the exact antidote to the poison of Innovate Dynamics. At Sutra, the foundational rules are credit is communal, failure is data, truth is required.
And those aren't just empty corporate slogans on a poster either. They are practical operational mechanics.
Wait, let me break that down. Failure is data means removing the emotional punishment and hazing from a bug in the code. A mistake isn't an excuse to put someone on a PIP, it's just a data point to improve the system.
Which is how engineering should be.
Right. And truth is required means no more POC dances. No more pretending an emoji dashboard is better than a functioning server just to stroke a VP's ego.
That transition to Sutra analytics is vital because the chilling effect isn't just a critique of what is broken. It actually functions as a survival framework for corporate professionals navigating these waters today.
A survival guide.
Yes. Through Arjun's journey, you learn how to recognize these red flags before the jaws snap shut. You learn to spot manufactured crises, those sudden panic-inducing fire drills that management creates out of thin air just to test your loyalty and extract free weekend labor.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the ultimate lesson of this book is a hard, bitter pill to swallow for high achievers. Technical brilliance does not protect you from a broken system. You could be the absolute best coder, the most insightful marketer, or the sharpest data analyst in the world, but if the system is corrupt, your talent is just fuel for their fire.
So how do you survive if you can't just walk away immediately like Arjun? Because not everyone can just quit.
Right. Most people have goals to pay.
Exactly. The book lays out defense mechanisms. You have to build trusted, quiet alliances with other freshwater employees. You have to document absolutely everything to protect yourself against HR gaslighting.
Get it in writing.
Yes, meaning you send follow-up emails confirming every contradictory demand management gives you, creating your own paper trail. And most importantly, you have to practice emotional detachment. You have to protect your self-worth outside of corporate validation. Your identity cannot be tied to the Star of the Month award.
Because that award is just part of the smiling propaganda.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this book acts as a profound, heavy validation for the overworked. It gives a voice to what the author specifically dedicates the book to: the ghosts in the machine.
The ghosts in the machine.
These are the millions of professionals across the globe whose integrity, passion, and expertise are actively suppressed by a culture that demands systemic compliance over truth. It's a reminder that you are not crazy when you see these things happening. You are not the problem. You are just seeing the machine for what it really is.
That is so validating. And for those who want to dive deeper into these frameworks and see themselves in Arjun's story, the book is widely available online across major platforms like Amazon, Google Books, and Flipkart.
Highly recommend checking it out.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? When we look at everything we've unpacked today, the anglerfish bait of fake wellness culture, the bureaucratic exhaustion of the POC dance, the ecological collapse of the Dead Sea effect, the sources reveal a really uncomfortable truth about our modern working world.
They really do.
In these toxic environments, bad code can always be debugged. But the bugs in human nature, ego, fear, greed, and the silence of those who just sit and watch it happen, those bugs are far more persistent.
They are deeply entrenched in the foundation of the corporate model. And the ultimate takeaway here is about realizing your own agency. A corporation may command your time, and they may command your labor during business hours. But the preservation of your integrity, your intellect, and your sanity is a personal, non-negotiable responsibility.
Absolutely non-negotiable.
You have to learn to recognize the scent of the salt, and you have to choose when to walk away from the burning building before it collapses on top of you.
We started this deep dive by talking about how when a physical building collapses, we look for structural flaws. But when a workplace collapses, we blame the individual. We blame the victim for not being resilient enough. But here's a final thought to mull over as you head into work tomorrow. If these toxic systems are specifically designed to exploit passion and dedication, what if the very traits that make you a top performer in your craft, your empathy, your drive, your deep desire to solve complex problems, are exactly what make you the most vulnerable to institutional betrayal? How do you redefine professionalism in your own life so that it includes fiercely, unapologetically protecting your own psychological safety? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the systems around you, and we'll catch you next time.